Welcome. Today, we're diving into a question that's, incredibly practical. How long does it actually take to free your mind from suffering? Are we talking about a lifelong struggle, or could it happen a whole lot faster than we think? We're going to jump into some foundational texts to map out this exact journey and figure out what really speeds up the process.
So this is the big one, right? It's not just some abstract philosophical question, it's super practical. If you're going to set out on this path, you want to know, is this like a weekend project, a lifetime of hard labor, or something else? Well, the texts we're looking at today offer some surprisingly direct answers.
The source material makes one thing crystal clear right from the get-go. This is not some casual hobby. The pursuit of mental freedom is talked about with this incredible life-or-death urgency. The mindset isn't, oh, I'll get around to it. It's an immediate, powerful need to act, just like this quote says, as if your head was literally on fire.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll nail down the destination. What exactly is a cooled mind? Then we'll check out the vehicle, the training that actually gets you there. We'll look at the fuel you need to power the journey, the obstacles that are going to get in your way, the surprising timeline for the trip, and finally, where you take that very first step.
All right, first things first, the destination. Because really, before we can talk about how long any journey takes, we need a super clear picture of where we're actually trying to go. What does a released mind even look and feel like?
I think this slide just nails the contrast perfectly. For the untrained mind, suffering is sticky. It's like this fertile ground where sorrows just pop up constantly, like weeds after a good rain. But for the released mind, it's the total opposite. Sorrows might show up, but there's nothing for them to cling to. They just roll right off, like a drop of water on a lotus leaf.
And this is the state the texts are pointing to. It's often described as being cooled or quenched. The whole idea is that the mind is usually burning with these fires of greed and hatred and delusion. So the destination of this path is the complete extinguishing of those fires. What's left is this state of profound peace and clarity.
So, if a cooled mind is where we're headed, how do we get there? Well, the texts don't treat it like some big mystery. They lay out a very clear, systematic training method, and that's the vehicle for this journey.
And this is absolutely crucial. This isn't about sitting around and hoping for a random flash of insight, for lightning to strike. It's presented as a methodical, learnable skill, a rational process of training your own mind, kind of like how a musician has to train their hands. It's all about cause and effect.
And this shows you just how progressive the training is, which is key. It all starts with this foundation of ethics, basically clearing the ground so your mind isn't all stirred up with guilt or regret. From there, you learn to guard the senses, which stops distractions from constantly derailing you. This builds into mindfulness, which is a much sharper awareness of your inner world. And finally, that refined awareness leads to immersion, these states of really deep, unified concentration. See how each step just builds on the last one? It creates this incredible momentum.
Of course, any vehicle needs fuel. You can have the most amazing car in the world, but it's not going anywhere without gas. And the same thing is true for this mental training. The texts are very specific about the qualities that act as the essential fuel for this journey, the very things that determine how fast you go. And here are 5 of the big ones: faith, or confidence that this path actually works, conscientiousness and prudence about your actions, sustained energy, and of course, the wisdom to see things as they really are. According to the texts, if you have these qualities, you don't fail. You get established in the teaching.
I just love this quote because it shows that energy isn't some passive thing you either have or you don't. It's framed here as a conscious decision. It's a choice you make when you recognize how precious this opportunity is and how real the dangers of life are. That recognition itself becomes the fuel that drives you forward.
Okay, time for a little reality check. The path isn't some smooth, open highway. The texts are just as clear about the obstacles, the potholes and roadblocks that will absolutely slow you down and keep your mind stuck. And it really all boils down to these 3, often called the unskillful roots, or more famously, the 3 poisons. You've got greed, which is craving, hate, which is aversion, and delusion, which is just fundamentally misunderstanding reality. These are pinpointed as the main forces that not only cause suffering, but act as a powerful brake on your progress. What a vivid image for greed, right? It's not a static thing. When you're not paying attention, when you're living heedlessly, craving is like this invasive vine that just wraps itself around your mind, strangling your clarity and tangling you up deeper and deeper in wanting. And this brilliant analogy explains exactly why the training is so critical. An untrained mind is, well, it's soft, it's impressionable, just like wet clay. It's easy for these negative forces to get a hold. But the whole process of training, mindfulness, concentration, it firms up the mind. It makes it way less susceptible to these poisons.
Okay, so we've looked at the destination, the vehicle, the fuel, and the obstacles. Now we can finally get back to our central question. How long is this road really? And the source material offers some pretty startling answers.
So first, let's tackle the common perception. We often hear that this kind of deep, spiritual transformation takes an impossibly long time, right? That it stretches out over countless rebirths. But is that what these early texts actually say?
7 days. This number comes from a specific story in the texts about a Brahma named Sela and his whole assembly. The text says that after meeting the Buddha, in these 7 days, we've become tamed in your teaching. Now, tamed in the teaching is a huge statement. It points to a really rapid and radical transformation for a massive group of people. We're talking 1,250 of them.
But here's what's so important. That 7-day story isn't just some one-off miracle. It's actually illustrating a much broader principle. The text state over and over that making a complete end to suffering in this very life is totally possible. It's not a guarantee for sure, but it is presented as a very real, achievable outcome.
And this brings us right back to that idea of causality. The texts compare the process to drilling a dry stick to create fire. You don't get fire by wishing for it, right? You get it by applying the correct method with persistent effort. Awakening isn't some magic wish fulfilled. It's the natural result of cultivating the right conditions. And how fast that fire ignites? Well, that depends entirely on the quality of your method and the energy you bring to it.
So, if this is all possible, and if it's a rational process, where in the world does it begin? We're going to wrap up by bringing this whole grand journey down to the very first step you can take, right here, right now.
Because ultimately, the entire path, from the very first step all the way to the final goal, it isn't about going somewhere else. It's about changing how you see. It's a process of stripping away delusion and developing the clarity to see your own experience, your thoughts, your feelings, the world around you, honestly and directly, just as it is.
And that brings us to the end of our explainer, and to a question just for you. If the whole journey really begins and ends with just seeing clearly, what is one aspect of your experience, maybe one reaction, one habit, one belief, that you could look at with just a little more clarity today? That journey of 1,000 miles, or maybe even just 7 days, it starts right there.